see the world and sail the seven seas. Wanna be free, unveil some mystery. Ancient times have passed me by, thou will remain. Hold my eyes under the open sky, the moonlight guides me to my destination. Sail set high, I pass the key. Easter and feast, they stood so silently. Faith in fools under the angel falls.
Hi everyone, if you're new to my channel, my name's Thomas Dawson and I'm here on Vancouver Island in the province of British Columbia, Canada. Today's video is going to be part 3 of my vlog in relation to health and well-being. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going over some of the basics that I wrote in my book, Getting Real in the Unreal World, The Wheel of Health. In that book I have 10 main categories that coincide with health. It's not all just about food, nutrition, and things like exercise. There's a lot more that can affect your health. So how I want to get started is by saying that if I was to go up to most people, doesn't matter where it is in the world, and ask them the simple question, do you want to be healthy? Is health important to you? The answer would be somewhat like, well, duh, of course I do. Most people are going to claim that they want to be healthy. The only people that might not are people who are actually severely depressed and suicidal. Everybody else is going to claim that they'd like to be healthy. Yet, when I go into the supermarket and I observe what people are putting in their grocery carts, I'd say that they are doing anything but what it takes to be healthy. In fact, I'd say they're doing the exact opposite of what it takes to be healthy. So it's kind of funny how people apparently are either really clueless or they think that they should be able to miraculously eat whatever it is that they want and still be healthy. Now, I remember one person who attended one of my hypnotherapy classes when I used to teach hypnotherapy, and he used to have the attitude, the mindset that he'd say to me, well, doesn't the body just take care of whatever I put into it? Like, you really believe that the body was that amazing that you can just eat whatever you want and just take care of it? You're going to be healthy. Sure enough, that man died within a year of retiring at 65 of cancer. And he used to say those things not that long before that. And I've known other people that have the same attitude. So you have a brain and a mind to make decisions as to what you put in your body, and what you put in your body can have a great effect upon your health. The next thing is, your body does not care what your excuses are. Whether you believe you have a soul or a point of consciousness and that the body is just a vehicle for physical experience, or whether you think you're just a body that has one shot at life, one kick at the can, and that consciousness or your intelligence is somehow amazingly sparked into being by some chemical reactions, which I don't believe for one second. But it doesn't matter if you believe that. Your body does not care what your excuses are. Your body is like a feedback mechanism. It tells you when you're doing things, whether it's stress, whether you're in fear, or whether you're feeding it things that is not conducive to health. It's going to give you all kinds of different signs, whether it's, skin irritations, upset stomach, all kinds of things. So your body doesn't care if every Friday it's pizza day at the office. Your body doesn't care if there's holidays each and every month and there's birthdays wherein people always want to feed you cake. Your body doesn't care if you go over to your friend's place and they always cook things that aren't that healthy. You need to start taking control over your life and learning how to say no, and stop worrying about what other people think when you want to be healthy. That's something I did years ago. If I go to someone's place and they want to feed me something that I don't think is healthy for me, I say, I'll be very polite about it. I'm not going to say, why are you trying to feed me that unhealthy crap? I'm going to just say, I'm very selective about what I eat, and I can only eat this that you're serving. And if they don't want to ever have me over again, that's totally fine. That's their prerogative to do so. But if they're going to get all upset about it and get insulted, well, I slaved over the, doing all this cooking and for all you guys, and you don't even appreciate it. If people are going to try and lay guilt trips on me like that, that's not my intent, is to hurt their feelings. And so if my intent isn't to hurt their feelings, I'm not gonna feel guilty when people say things like that. And again, if I don't get invited again, it's totally fine. But I'm going to look after my health in the best way that I can. And if people are going to get upset because I don't want to partake of certain things, all I can say is too bad. So let's move on, and I'm going to go through these as quickly as I can. The 10 main categories that are in my book. Number 1, food, nutrition, and water. Trying to sum this up as quickly as I can. What I recommend that people do is get local foods if you can, locally grown foods. That includes things like cows, if you're into eating meat. Try to get things that are as organic as possible, in season. And if you're going to go to the grocery stores, the supermarkets, pretty much all the stuff that you should be getting is going to be around all the outside. The fresh stuff, as fresh as possible, is best. The less imported stuff, the better. And that all comes down to, believe it or not, different frequencies, which I'll get into another time probably. But food grown in certain areas is going to have certain frequencies. You growing up in a certain area, your body's going to have a certain frequency, and it's going to match the foods in your area better than foods from other lands far away. So, in other words, stay away from all the packaged food, the chemicalized food, the stuff that's been heated up, processed, and on and on and on. Basically, if it's in a package, in a can, it's going to have additives, preservatives added to it, salts, sugars. So if you even have to read a label, which I always advocate that people do, it's probably not going to be the best thing for you. Most of the things, even in the health food stores and the health food sections, are not that good. All those cereals and things, no matter how organic the cocoa is or how organic the spelt flakes, etc., that stuff is all processed. It doesn't have proper nutrition. Even some of those things in their natural form are not, believe it or not, all that good for you. I'd advocate getting rid of all the things like white flour that's in pasta, white rice, white sugar, that includes brown sugar. Really minimize, even things like so-called healthy sugars like pure organic maple syrup, things like that. I'd eliminate as many grains as possible. Most breads, again, are going to have all kinds of oils in them. Get rid of the seed oils. They're really not good for you. The process of making seed oils it's rather scary and horrendous if you actually learn how a lot of these things are made and processed. Again, keeping it simple. Get whole foods. If you're into eating fruits, vegetables, meat, grains, at least get them as local as possible. Made, if you're going to get maybe bread, get rye bread or something like that, without the sugar and all those kinds of things. Made by a local baker. Go to the local farms, get to know the people, find out if they're using hormones, see that their cattle are grazing on grass, how they're fed. All those kinds of things are extremely important. A lot of the people into eating meat are talking about nose to tail nowadays. That means eating the liver, the heart, brain, literally nose to tail, the bone marrow. You might be thinking, well, isn't the liver something that, where toxins are stored? Well, if you're eating properly, and if the cow is eating properly, he or she is not going to have a toxic liver. Okay, so I'm not going to go beyond that. Just get local, organic as possible foods, and that's a good start. As far as water is concerned, a lot of people are going to say, well, distilled water is best, reverse osmosis water, on and on. I'm just going to say don't drink your tap water, because usually it's going to have fluoride in it. If you just do drink distilled water, that's probably fine. The whole thing about it taking minerals out, I think that's a little bit exaggerated at the least. Obviously, you've probably heard about plastics leaching into water and things like that, so try to get the glass bottles, like your Perrier. Not so sure about the carbonation, if that's not that great, but again, we don't need to go overboard. Get to the basics to get started. But the things to eliminate first and foremost are the white sugars, the white grains, the white rice, things like that, and all those seed oils, things like that, the carbohydrates, and the grains. Okay, next on to exercise, movement, keeping active mentally and physically. I'm not a huge advocate of going into the gym and doing a super strenuous workout. I think that all those people who are in there and got big muscles, that they probably lack what I call authentic self-esteem and self-worth. If you're with somebody and let's say you're a big dude right now, a big buff dude, good abs, all the whole thing, and you got a girlfriend, I'd ask yourself, would that girl still be with you if you didn't have all the muscles? If you were just this kind of a average slender guy like me? If not, I'd say does your self-worth depend on having big muscles? Well, if it does, well, then you don't have authentic self-confidence and self-worth. What I talk a lot about in my books is about authentic self-confidence and self-worth, and it doesn't have anything to do with your appearance, how many diplomas you have on the wall, how much money you earn, how many material things you own, how so-called successful you are, any of those things, or your appearance in any way, shape, or form. So if you really want to learn how to be authentically confident, then I think you'd benefit from reading my books. Getting Real in the Unreal World, The Story of a Rude Awakening, and Inspiration is also part autobiography as to how I was a very shy kid, very timid, always wanted to be nice and liked and all those kinds of things. Not that confident, and how I slowly but surely gained what I call authentic confidence, etc., etc. So I'm more of an advocate of finding activities that you enjoy, like kayaking, canoeing, going swimming, biking, gentle activities that aren't going to tax the body too much, because your body is also like a rechargeable flashlight, a rechargeable battery. If you push it too hard, or if you turn the flashlight on to full strength, obviously the battery is going to drain quicker. Have it medium strength, it'll last longer, but it'll still drain quicker than if you have it on the dimmer mode. So I think that if you go into the gym and you push your body in workouts, you're using up a lot of energy just for ego nonsense reasons. It's just, and not only that, but having big muscles absolutely does not necessarily equate to being healthy. You can look great and have the ripped six-pack on the outside and muscles and all that stuff, and have all kinds of problems with your organs and other issues in your body, your heart, etc., etc. So the two do not necessarily equate. In fact, I would argue that working out and having your veins practically bulging from your head when you're trying to do that last rep because your buddy is saying, come on, you can do it, and you're trying to be a real man, I'd argue that you're actually harming yourself more than you are helping yourself. But I also will say, do whatever you want. It's your body. Do what you want with it. So I'm more a fan of just movement, whether it's gentle Tai Chi, the things I was just mentioning, swimming. Find something you like. Even in the olden days, more people were into gardening, doing their own farming. That's natural exercise. You're going to be moving all the time. Now, obviously that's the physical part that I've just been talking about. I'm also a proponent of keeping active mentally. Keep trying to learn new things. Find things that will stimulate your brain, your mind, and keep learning. As I've said in another video, if you only listen to one person or one group or organization and you've taken what they say to be the absolute truth, and everybody else or every other organization is wrong, whether it's a religion, your government, or just an individual, there's a fairly good chance that you're setting yourself up to be duped, to be scammed, to be conned, to be taken advantage of, or to be abused, sometimes quite severely. And so always keep an open mind. Don't think that you've figured everything out. Don't think that you know it all. I don't care if it's a religion, your spiritual beliefs. The people that usually think they've got it all figured out are the people who least have things figured out. And what I've learned is that the more I have learned, the more I realize how little I really know and how much there is still to learn and to know. And I've gone through several phases where I thought I might have had things pretty figured out, only to learn something new and realize that I didn't have things as figured out as I thought I did. And they're just saying you don't know what you don't know yet. And so if you think you've got something all figured out, there might be a lot of things that you just don't know that you don't know yet. So never assume that you've got everything all figured out. And that applies to nutrition as well. Number 3 on my list will be sleep. Sleep cycles, rest, meditation, self-hypnosis, and breathing. I'm not really an advocate of anything to the extreme. I know there's people who like to meditate for an hour to maybe even 5 hours straight. And again, if that's what you think is best, go for it. Sorry for the noise out in the background. Got a neighbor who's apparently working on something on a project over there, but this is life. These are the kinds of things we have to deal with, so let's just keep rolling here. I'm more of a fan of doing meditation, which by my definition is just clearing the mind and doing kind of a reset. Maybe you had a bit of a crappy day at work, maybe something has stressed you out as a parent. Learn a simple meditation where you just are able to clear the mind, calm the body, and it kind of resets things. And then maybe you can have a better evening after a stressful day or afternoon. Now when it comes to self-hypnosis, again, if you watch some of my other videos, you'll have heard me mention that I became a certified hypnotherapist back in 1991. And I used to have a practice, and I also used to teach hypnotherapy for a while. However, I don't do that so much anymore because I just got a whole bunch of other things that I'm now doing. Although I still do take on clients if they happen to know that I do hypnotherapy. And if I think they can help them, if I think that I can help them, they also believe that I can help them with something. So apparently that hammering is gonna be a little bit of a distraction. Earlier on, they were making noise with a big bunch of machinery, and I was recording, and I knew it was going to ruin the quality of the recording, and people were going to complain, so I waited, and now they're doing this. So anyway, just got to keep on going on. When it comes to self-hypnosis, the big difference between meditation and hypnosis would be that hypnosis, you generally have a goal. In other words, I could talk to you about what authentic confidence is about, and you could visualize yourself in a different way with different perspectives in a scenario where you're out and about, and previously maybe you weren't able to do the things that you're now visualizing. So now with the new wisdom you have, you can visualize yourself, and if you can visualize yourself in an actual scene and imagine as though you're truly confident with this newfound wisdom, then that also means you can go into the real world and you can do it there as well. But anyway, I don't want to get into a big explanation about that, but self-hypnosis can help people to attain a lot of goals as well. Now, when it comes to sleep, I'm a huge advocate of getting a consistent cycle of sleep from around 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now, I know that some people are going to live in areas where it's going to be dark really early and not light until quite late, and the opposite as well, light until, around here it can stay light until 10 p.m. and then the next thing you know, the sun is up at 4:30 a.m. So in general, I think it's a good pattern to get up with the first light, go to bed soon after light, but you have to moderate that by where you live, your time zones and everything. So ideally, however, you're going to go to bed and at around 10 p.m. get up at 6 a.m. and try to get the first light of the sun, if the sun is indeed out, but either way there's going to be light. I think a lot of people underestimate the value of sunlight when it comes to health, and if you listen to Dr. Jack Kruse, that's Kruse, listen to some of his interviews on YouTube, he will explain in excruciating detail how important it is to get the sunlight first thing in the morning, and if that's not possible, be out and be looking not directly at the sun, but maybe 25 degrees over this way or this way from the sun, getting that light through the eyes, which means take off your sunglasses. That's another big topic. People are wearing sunglasses, and that's not going to be good for getting that light. The eyes are a much more amazing, sophisticated piece of engineering, I'm going to say, than what most people suggest. So get out into sunlight, natural light as often as possible. Things you've been taught about skin cancer are very inaccurate in my opinion, and believe me, I've been researching these things in great depth for a long time, but I'm just going to try and keep it simple for now. Breathing, there's also breathing exercises you can do. You can, for instance, do a very basic what's called a progressive relaxation, where you breathe in the calmness, exhale any stress that's there, but just do nice rhythmic breathing, nice and deep. And then I also would suggest that people look into Wim Hof and his breathing techniques, as well as cold thermogenesis, I think it's pronounced, which Dr. Kruse also advocates and talks about. Wim Hof, if you don't know who he is, he's nicknamed the Iceman. He's broken all kinds of world records, putting his body into, for instance, containers full of ice, but maintaining his core body temperature, all kinds of pretty wild things that he's done. And his name, again, Wim Hof, H-O-F, I think it's just one F, but you'll find him by looking under Iceman or Wim Hof, whether it's one F or two Fs. But breathing is quite important. Too many people are not breathing very properly. Do learn some breathing techniques, and that'll be helpful as well for your health. Number 4 is sound, nature, music. Obviously, sound can have an impact on your health. If you are around a very loud bunch of sound, keep in mind that you're actually made out of particles and atoms, electrons, and various particles, and that's energy. So sound can disrupt your energy if it's loud enough, if it's a certain frequency. You've all seen it was an ad from years ago where there's a certain frequency at a certain volume and it shatters the wine glass. Well, I also believe that sound can affect our bodies as well. And even the pace of the sound, or the song, for instance. As much as I have nothing against heavy metal, I've listened to Judas Priest, AC/DC, Van Halen, those kind of bands as well. I'd save that for more getting pumped up in the gym. But if you're listening to that kind of thing, and it's a really heavy, fast pace, that can take you out of a nice calm rhythm, whereas you listen to something like classical, which I also like, or soft music, that can help you to keep relaxed. If you like heavy metal and it's a way for you to release your anger, there's all kinds of release techniques, whether it's yelling out loud or punching a punching bag, things like that. Just keep in mind that those things are only going to temporarily help you to release the anger. In actuality, it's not helping you to deal with the underlying core issue of what's bringing up the anger. And so it's just going to be a repetition pattern. If you don't mind constantly beating up on heavy bags, well, fine. But I'm a big fan of looking for the core issue behind things and dealing with them, not sweeping them under the rug, trying to run away from them. Again, I'm just glossing over some of these. Next is number 5, light, energy, electricity, and magnetism. That is one of the main topics that Dr. Jack Kruse gets into. I'll mention a couple other names you can look up on YouTube. One of his proteges is named Matt Maruka. He's a really young guy, so a young guy like him is going around the world already, inspiring people to live healthier lives. Another fellow that I like, who's doing a good job of promoting the information of Jack Kruse, is his name is Nathan Walls, W-A-L-Z, and I can't urge strong enough that you listen to what they have to say about electromagnetic energy and frequencies, because everything from the wiring in your home to the internet that you're watching on your laptop, all your electronics devices, your TVs, your light bulbs that you have inside, they're all affecting your health to one degree or another. And as this 5G network gets rolled out in cities worldwide, it's going to be getting to be a bigger and bigger thing. I firmly believe, from the research I've done into this, that that's going to have a devastating effect on people's health. So if you're in a 5G neighborhood already, boy, I'd really think twice about living in that area. I'd want to get the heck out of there ASAP, as though some of the frequencies that we already have bombarding us aren't enough. But again, we are electromagnetic beings. If we have frequencies that aren't in the same range as our body, it's going to affect us. Now, I can't explain it as well as other people can. I've listened to all the details, but I just can't be bothered to commit it all to memory. So I'll leave it up to them. Watch those other guys, Dr. Kruse, etc. But rest assured that when you're taking in what's called blue light through these electronics devices, that it's messing up your health. And it's going to mess up your sleep as well. So if you're watching, for instance, your TV or your laptop, you're on your laptop right until you go to bed, then that's going to affect your sleep patterns as well. And going back to food, if you're eating right up until you go to bed, that's also going to affect your sleep. So all these things are hand in hand, and I call it the wheel of health because the picture is basically like a pie pattern, and there's a circle in the middle, because it's all interrelated, all these different things. You can't just look at one thing and think you've got it all figured out, like food and exercises. so common on YouTube nowadays. Health has a lot more to do with other things as well. Alright, and moving on to number 6, I've got thought patterns, belief systems, learning tolerance and patience, and being more caring and releasing expectations. So those are huge topics. I can write chapters on each one of them alone, but thought patterns is basically your accumulated ways of thinking, your opinions, your perspectives on life, about other people, about the world. And so if you have a bunch of thought patterns that say that I hear people commonly saying, I hate the world, and people are idiots, things like that. If you have a negative thought pattern, you're probably going to be miserable. And I can tell you that if you're going to wait for the world to change, meaning the people in the world to change and become more considerate and thoughtful and kind and all those other kind of nice things, you're going to be waiting an awful long time. So it's ultimately up to you to change your perspective about these things and to be more understanding, patient, and tolerant of people. To understand, just as an example, that a lot of people are programmed by their parents, and if one parent is a obnoxious asshole, there's a good chance he's going to program his son to be an obnoxious asshole too. And it's all going to be, those thought patterns are all going to be held in the subconscious mind, and the guy might not even realize why he's an obnoxious asshole, but that's just the way he acts. And there can be hidden advantages to being that way, and so long as there's hidden advantages to being a certain way and it seems to kind of work for people, they generally won't change. Something significant has to happen that snaps them out of it, that wakes them up a little bit, that twigs. Sometimes that's quite often a traumatic event, or what we consider to be a really negative event, like a serious accident, because people just act like they don't care, and that reflects in the way they drive. And oftentimes people won't change at all, or until something really bad happens to them, where they have to reflect upon life and their attitude, etc. So learning tolerance and patience is going to be a benefit to you more than anybody else. A lot of people have the attitude is that if people are going to not be very nice, well, they're not going to be very nice back to them. And if that's the attitude you're going to adopt, there goes the loud machinery again. So here's a good example where that kind of stuff, it's out of my control. And so, you just have to, well, you don't have to, but it's to your benefit, my benefit, to just roll with it. And I'm going to leave this in the video because, again, if you're going to complain, well, the video is ruined because there's all that racket in the background. And if you can't just take the value of some of the things that I'm saying, there's a perfect example of how you have expectations that probably aren't going to be met, because the world and neighbors like this aren't going to be quiet just because I wish they would be. It just doesn't work that way. The world's not going to change to accommodate what you want. So it's up to you to take control over your emotions, your reactions. Now, I know that's not an easy task. It can take years and years to slowly be able to do these kinds of things. But if you can't realize that the world is not going to change to suit what you want and to accommodate you, well, then you're going to spend an awful lot of time being frustrated and angry and pissed off and all those kinds of things. And you can't be happy when you're pissed off. That's the bottom line. What do you want in life? Don't you want to be happy? I do. I want to be happy and be at peace. And so in order to do that, you have to be tolerant of the stupid world, if you're going to look at it like that. All right, so again, we'll move on here because I don't want to take forever to go through these things. Number 7 is occupations, environments, and nature, toxic places versus harmonious places. If, for instance, you're working a job and you think your boss is an asshole, you think some of your coworkers are jerks or idiots or whatever you want to think that people typically do, there's a couple of main different approaches. One, you can try and find a job at another company where you hope that the people aren't the same. So you can scope out a place and get a job at a different place because it seems like, oh, it's better over there. You know, the grass is greener on the other side syndrome. But sure enough, you get over there and the boss is actually nicer, but he's also really easygoing and doesn't really work hard to keep the company in contracts, which, you know, keeps people getting called in. So although he's nice, all of a sudden I think, oh, this boss, he's just lazy. He's really nice, but geez, he needs to, you know, buckle down and get to work so we can, you know, have work. And then there's always going to be differing personalities where you work at a different company where there's a lot of employees. So there's always going to be people who come across as being obnoxious assholes or annoying, or, you know, I can name a whole list of so-called negative traits. But if you can understand that they're a product of what their programming was and their parents, we're bombarded with programming, and I hate to say it, but everyone is programmed. 99.999% of people are programmed, and they are not what I call authentic people. People are after material things, status, accolades, things like that. That to me is all part of just this fakeness that's so prevalent in the world nowadays. So the other approach to a job is you stay in the same company and you try to change your attitude about, you know, your boss. And amazingly, sometimes if we change our attitudes about people and we try to be more understanding of why they are like they are, and if we talk to them in a little bit different way, their reaction to us can also change. Now, I'm not saying you should stay put in what's a toxic environment if you're working in a place where your health truly is at risk, whether it's because of toxic fumes or whatever. Your health is in danger because people are not careful, the safety standards aren't there. Then by all means, I'd say try to do your best to find an environment where it is better. But you know, that's a decision we all have to make. I've been through it myself. But the first approach I'd say is try to change your own attitude about things. So again, I don't want to ramble on too much about all these things, so we'll move on to number 8, having a sense of purpose, enthusiasm about life, sense of humor, and feeling a sense of hope. Unfortunately, the way the world is going right now with rising costs, harder to raise children for a variety of reasons, there's just a lot of depression. Some people can't just do one job. There's single parents who have to do 2, sometimes 3 jobs, and they can't do these optimal ideas that I'm putting forth about, you know, getting to sleep at a certain time because they're having to work so damn hard just to pay for the basics of life and their children, which I greatly admire people who are doing those things. I've never had children, so I don't have to, you know, do those kinds of things, but I can understand why there's a lot of people who are, you know, just losing hope that life's ever going to get any better. They feel depressed. It could be a hard hole to dig out of, but I do believe there are ways for most of us, which again I get into more detail on those kinds of things in my books, but I'm a firm believer that, again, going back to the flashlight, the rechargeable flashlight, the less you have hope, the less you look forward to each and every day. It's like your light, your energy is just dimming, getting weaker and weaker, just like the flashlight that's running out of energy and getting weaker and weaker. And sometimes it's because people feel beaten down by life. The people around them have not been very nice. They have no self-esteem. They don't feel like they even have a place in this world. They don't feel like they have any... they don't feel like they deserve to succeed at anything. Success is another definition that I'll explain another time, but a lot of people's definition of success is having diplomas on the wall, how many likes you get on Facebook, even what your status is, and how nice your car is, how big your house is, how nice you dress, whether you're using all the latest designer clothes and watches and things like that. To me, that has nothing to do with success. My version of success is completely to do with, do I feel authentic self-esteem? Do I feel good about myself, not in an egotistical way? How happy am I in life? Do I feel peace of mind? And above all, am I healthy? Because if I'm not healthy, if you're not healthy, it's going to be awfully hard to enjoy all those material things that you work so hard to get, or that some people actually do scams to get. It's going to be hard to enjoy your friends and family if you have loved ones. If you're in a hospital bed with IVs in you, you've got cancer. It's just going to be hard to enjoy life in any way, shape, or form if you're sick and diseased in a hospital bed. So that's why I always say health needs to be number one. So one of my biggest purposes is to help people to feel better about themselves and feel that authentic self-esteem. Trust me, when I was younger, I didn't have that self-esteem, and I had to do a lot of studying and thinking and pondering about life. What is life all about? What's the purpose of life? Before I could get, over years to where I'm at right now. And if I was to base my self-esteem on having nice things, status, popularity, designer clothes, well, my self-esteem would be at about 0, because I don't have really any of those things. I drive a very ordinary car, don't own a house, I don't care about designer clothes. So anyway, enthusiasm, it's up to each and every one of us to find our passion in life. And when I say passion in life, we might not be able to find a job that we're passionate about, but if at least on the side we can have hobbies, do things that we enjoy, that we have at least some kind of passion about, at least it gives us something to look forward to. And you can even just be passionate about going for walks in the woods. One of the things I like about photography, that when I've taught photography workshops, is helping people to take better photos, and they feel more inspired to go out into nature, to get to the beaches, all the things that I think are conducive towards health. And so it's something that pretty much anybody can do. You can get a camera pretty cheaply these days. So, if your mission is to go take a nice sunset shot or a waterfall shot, it's going to inspire you to get out more, out into nature. And so it can be something simple like that. It doesn't matter how many likes you get for your photos. Okay, so number 9 is relationships. Toxic people versus harmonious people. That can include your friends, co-workers, or your more serious relationships. In general, and I'm doing a lot of generalizing here, but I want to keep it simple. Let's take the example of somebody who likes to drink a lot of alcohol or do a lot of drugs. They're going to hang out with people that also do a lot of drugs or drink a lot of alcohol. And the reason why is because they will justify to each other why it's okay to do what they're doing. People will commiserate with each other. I notice, of course, that overweight people will hang out often with other overweight people, and they'll give themselves excuses why they should just eat whatever they want and enjoy whatever they want to eat right now and not worry about what happens tomorrow. you'll notice that the jocks will hang out with the other athletes, and on it goes. People will gravitate towards people that have the same mindset, have the same habits, do the same kind of things. And in a lot of cases, however, they're not healthy habits. Now, it's your life, your choice. You can do whatever you like. But again, if you're doing all these things that most of us know are harming our health, and I've talked about how we have to be realistic about what type of body we have. Do we have like a Humvee or a tank, which can, plow through life, and it seems like they're indestructible in a way, which means, some people can eat whatever they want. It doesn't seem like they have health issues. They can do really hard workouts and they'll grow muscle really easily. Then you've got more of your passenger family van people who have a vehicle that's practical, gets them around, but they can't take a lot of abuse. They have to watch what they eat. And then you've got your gremlins. That's that old car that was kind of known as a lemon. And unfortunately, there are people are born with very weak genetics, whether it's because their parents did some bad habits that weaken the child's genetics or whatever else. We have to assess where our vehicle is at. Now, I'm fortunate that I seem to have pretty good genetics. I can eat pretty much what I want, it seems, without getting fat, but I've had an active lifestyle. But I don't want to learn the hard way. I don't want to take the chance. So I am doing all these things that I'm talking about to the best of my ability. And because I don't want to learn the hard way and end up in a hospital bed. And I've seen too many people that I know, including, unfortunately, family members like my sister, and now my mom, my biological father, sister and biological father both passed away from cancer within 2 weeks of each other. Right at the same time, my mother, who had already developed health issues and was taking a bunch of pharmaceutical medications, which I absolutely will not do. I guarantee that. And I can't tell you, I'm not going to say what I think about pharmaceutical medications, but it isn't a nice opinion. But right after my sister passed away, my biological father did as well. My mom developed serious dementia. Now she's currently in a care facility where she has to be watched all the time. She can't come and go as she obviously would like to, and all that stuff. So that, unfortunately, is the reality of what happens if you don't care about your health. You're going to pay the price. And some people do have the attitude, well, it's just the way it is. We're all going to die someday. And they'll suffer through it and die, and they don't complain that much. But most people will wish that they could have a redo and they could do it over and make wiser decisions. So don't be one of those dumbasses who has this attitude, well, it tastes good now, so let's drink and smoke and just do whatever feels good now, please the senses, and then you're going to suffer. And because of the electronic EMF stuff that I talked about, you have to earn your health nowadays, people. Especially if you're out in the country, in the countryside, farmlands, you're probably going to fare a lot better. If you're in any kind of a city or a town, you're going to have to really earn your health, and you're going to have to start making some tough decisions and make some changes in life. And I have another friend, I'm not going to say who that is, but that person, despite having a mother and a grandmother who lived to be a very, very ripe old age and healthy until the very end, despite having strong genetics, it should see that person live to be just as old. That person is in a big city, being bombarded with EMF, 5G network, and before that person is even 45, I think, they're having to deal with a severe health issue right now. And that's happening just way too commonly now. I know too many people have passed away before they even hit 50 years old. And these kinds of things don't have to happen if you start making smarter choices. So yeah, choose your friends wisely. The people who are living a really wise, healthy lifestyle, and let's say you got somebody who drinks a lot of alcohol, maybe does some drugs, this circle of people is not going to want this person to be hanging around with them unless this person is genuinely wanting to know the keys that these people are knowing that this person or this group doesn't know. If you ask people like this, they're probably more than happy to help you out, because people of quality character will help uplift their fellow human beings and not do what a lot of people on YouTube are doing, which is trying to knock people down, criticize them unjustly, say nasty things and cut them down and make other people feel bad. That's not what people of quality character do. And until you can learn some of these really basic things, you're going to be a friggin' miserable person who isn't going to probably have real friends, and you're eventually going to probably realize that you don't feel that good about yourself, and realize that the reason you're saying nasty things on YouTube, making nasty comments and being an obnoxious asshole towards other people is because you're not happy inside, so you're taking your misery out on other people. Huge subject right there. I wrote about those in my types of things in my books. So let's just move on to number 10, spirituality, clarity, and realization. Not really a believer that there is such a thing as complete spiritual self-realization. Because I think if you have to be involved in working and living in the world, earning your way, relationships, etc., there's always going to be traces of ego left over. I described one case of what I thought was a genuine self-realization of a woman, but that was when she's in this, deep state of meditation, and she wasn't really having to participate when she's in that meditation. I think she had a real genuine awakening. But after she realized the answer to the question, who am I, which to me is pure awareness, that's what we really are. This person, when she came out of her, whatever you want to call it, meditation or realization, she couldn't stand the world. She thought this world was such a tragic mess. It was like she didn't even want to participate in life anymore. So that was kind of an interesting story. But what I do advocate is people do search for the answer to that question, who am I? Are you just a body that has an intelligence that was sparked into existence by chemical reactions, or are you a soul, a point of consciousness that's having an experience on a physical plane of existence for a temporary, finite period of time? If you can find the answer to those things, it can help a lot towards not taking yourself quite as seriously. But that doesn't mean that you can't take life serious or do your job to the best of your ability, but you can have a greater sense of humor about yourself. You can wear different hats and not take yourself to be so serious in that. For instance, if you're, photographer, since I do photography, I notice there's a lot of photographers who are really egotistical, and they really think that they're hot stuff just because they can take some nice photos of sunsets and mountains and lakes. And they think they're really special. And it doesn't take much to be able to take a photo of mountains and lakes and sunsets. Anybody can learn that. I can do that too, but I don't think it makes me any better or any worse than anybody else. But you've got people who get to this certain status level and they think that they're all special, and they get full of themselves and ego, what I call ego nonsense. And if you can overcome a lot of that ego nonsense, you're going to be a lot happier, And when you're clear about who you are, whether if you don't think that you're a soul, if you don't believe in that kind of stuff, you can still understand that you're kind of like an actor in a play, and that you're given a name, and you don't have to identify yourself as a photographer. That can be your temporary activity that you're doing. You can even make money from it, but you don't have to identify as in your self-worth as a photographer. A better example might be an athlete. Let's say there's this highly touted running back who gets to the NFL. His first year, everybody's taking photos of him, giving him accolades. Oh, you're so wonderful, you're so great, and all that stuff. And it all goes to his head. And then in game number 3 of his first season, gets an injury that's so severe that it ends his career. Next thing he knows, he's already spent all his money on his Lamborghini, his gold chains, and now he has nothing, not even that career. And people forget about him, and all of a sudden he's not thought of as the great athlete, and the guy just has no self-esteem because his whole self-esteem was wrapped around people telling him how wonderful he was. If you have my version of authentic self-confidence, you don't need any of that kind of stuff. You can feel good about yourself no matter what it is that you do for a living, etc., etc. So I'm going to wrap it up at that, and thanks for watching. And if people seem to be enjoying these videos, I will make more. If people don't seem to have any interest, well, guess what? I'll just move on and I'll start writing songs, taking photos. I'll do what I enjoy in life and just roll with that. So, bye for now. Until next time.